Good morning, everyone. Morning and welcome. Just give folks a minute to get sat down and comfortable. We'll begin our synod together. It's a joy to come together in fellowship, worship and shared purpose, and we're very grateful to meet as the people of God in this place. It's a real gift. You'll see on your tables a number of things that you might use today. There's also some fiddly bits for those of you that like to fiddle when you're listening. And there should be some sweets, I think, and other bits and pieces. All of these things are intended to make you feel as comfortable and as relaxed as possible. Can I just say on behalf of us all that I'd really like to express my sincere thanks to the Sheffield Circuit for hosting us and for all the work that's been done and gone into preparing this time for us. It's quite a huge ask, really. So we're very grateful, Sheffield, for your hospitality and for your service. I'm going to invite now Deborah, who's going to come and welcome us formally on behalf of the circuit. Thank you, Deborah.
Good morning, everybody. Here at Greenhill and online, it's really lovely to come together for our district gathering, aka Synod. I still don't really know what to call it, but very warm welcome to you all to the Sheffield Circuit. And I know you've travelled from across the district. I'm very grateful that was a sunny journey for you, most of you, and it's good to see you all. And I look forward to this gathering under the title of Courageous Conversations, and just want to remind all of us that conversations often start with listening. And as we listen to God and to one another, may we get a sense of where we are led, where our faith is calling us to be, and how we relate to each other. Thank you.
I've had a few conversations this morning about how Synod has changed over the years, for better and for worse, even changed the name. And I oscillate between Synod and gathering. But we all know why we're here, I hope, whether we're gathered as a Synod or gathered as a gathering. But I think there is, whatever we think of Synod, there's nothing really quite like gathering as a district that reminds us what a welcoming people us Methodists are in all of our diversity, and we are. And you get a snapshot of that diversity when you're here together. And when we bring our stories, our diverse stories, because Sheffield is indeed a diverse district, and we come together as that very diverse community, bringing our stories. And so I was reminded just this week, actually, on Tuesday, when I was in the circuit office, and I was washing up my cups before I was leaving in the shared kitchen at Victoria Hall. And there was one of the employees who work with Assist, which work alongside people who have failed asylum, and they support them. And we were talking about welcome in the Methodist Church. And he said to me how welcoming the Methodist Church is. But in his community, people don't just want to be welcomed, they want to belong. So I think when we sing that, we should have it in the back of our mind that welcome, belonging is as important, if not more important than welcoming. We need to be able to say we welcome, but we welcome people to somewhere they can belong. And today we gather, as Deborah said, for a synod under the theme of courageous conversations. And those conversations will be with one another. Conversations, we'll think about conversations we've had or we'll have with our communities, and conversations with God. And I think courageous conversations are not always easy because they ask us, as Deborah rightly pointed out, to listen deeply. Listening is vital, and we'll hear more of that later. But also to speak honestly, and sometimes to name what hurts and name our fears. But they are also, those courageous conversations, I believe, are holy spaces. And we don't have those conversations alone. There are places in those conversations where God meets us in truth and leads us towards hope. And so gently now we turn to the Psalms to hear and respond to the words shaped by real lives. If we think we have it hard in 2026 and things have changed, go back to the Psalms. Go back to the Psalms. Real lives, real struggles, and a deep trust, even when they were angry, even when they were unsure, that God was listening.
The words should be coming up here. Please share with me the bold type. How long, O God, will you forget us forever? How long must we wrestle with our thoughts and carry sorrow in our hearts? Why are you cast down, O my soul? And why are you disquieted within me? Out of the depth we cry to you, O Lord. Hear our voice. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and let your heart take courage. The reading is from James chapter 1, verses 19 to 26. Listening and doing. Understand this, my dear brothers and sisters. You must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Human anger does not produce the righteousness God desires. So get rid of all the filth and evil in your lives and humbly accept the word of God has planted in your hearts, for it has the power to save your souls. Don't just listen to God's word. You must do what it says. Otherwise, you are fooling yourselves. For if you listen to the word and don't obey, it's like glancing at your face in a mirror. You see yourself, walk away, and forget what you look like. But if you look carefully into the perfect law that sets you free, and if you do what it says and don't forget what you heard, then God will bless you for doing it. If you claim to be religious but don't control your tongue, you are fooling yourself, and your religion is worthless.
You saw what I did there. I thought a different step, it would make all the difference. Thank you, Jonathan.
The words that Jonathan just shared with us, they remind us that faith is not just something that we hear, it's something that we live intentionally. And part of that means we are called to listen deeply and to speak carefully and to be honest in how we live before God and how we live before one another and how we live within our communities. And I think one of the most honest ways that Scripture shows us how to live is through the practice of lament. It's so very important. If courageous conversations begin with truth-telling, then the psalm shows that lament is where those conversations with God often begin. The Psalms teach us something very, very important about faith. They show us that faith is not pretending that everything is fine, that all will be well. The psalmists argue with God. They question God. They protest injustice, and they name the pain and grief and anger, and they name their anxieties. Lament is not a failure of faith. It's nothing to do with not being faithful enough. Lament is an act of courage. It takes courage, I think, to speak truth to power. And as Methodists, I think we're called to do that. It takes courage to tell truth about the world as it is and all the disappointments and the hurts. It takes courage to name where things hurt. Often we're not very good at doing that. And I think it takes courage to speak honestly with one another about our fears, anxieties, and about our shames and our hurts. And it takes courage to speak honestly with our communities. Because so often, we come from a place where we really only promote the positive things. Now, this isn't a criticism, it's an absolute fact. Because and I wonder if it'll change after today, because I preach in a different church most Sundays, I often get met with, oh, we're low on numbers because people are on holiday or the school holidays. There's an apology rather than we're here and we're excited to see you. So we need to be honest about the things that we're struggling with. And as we begin this synod together, perhaps it will be good for us to begin where the psalmists begin, by naming the things that weigh on our hearts. Now, for some of you, it will be your first time with us today. Hands up if it's your first time at Synod. Oh, yeah, quite a few. Welcome. Hope you have a really wonderful time and you feel like it's a really enriching gathering. We'd also like to welcome Mark North, who is with us in the first time as his capacity of faith-rooted community organising lead. Now, if that isn't a very long title, that was title made up by Methodist Church. But as you begin to get to know Mark and the work that he's doing, and he begins to work alongside you, that title will slip easier up to hopefully. But we call him Fairclough. Fairclough for short. Welcome, Mark. We're looking forward to hearing from you then, so. We've received, in terms of dispensations for this morning, we've received 6 in total, which is the synod we know together. And we also know the apologies that have been given. If you're here and you didn't register online, because some people forget to register online, but they have this in their diary, we may be a little short on things like goodie bags because Catherine counted them in terms of people registering online.
if that's the case and you haven't been given one, please be generous with one another and share. They really are goodie bags. There's some lovely things in them. And the same applies to food. Our lunch today is prepared in line with who we expect to come, but we're good at sharing, so we make sure that everyone's fed. That's the most important thing we do.
Morning, everybody. Just very quickly, we're not expecting to have any votes today, but should we need to have a counted vote, can we appoint Julie Coates, Tom Reid, Grace Perkins and Anne Lyons as our scrutineers? Is Synod agreed? Thank you.
We now come to a very important time to say farewell to our friends who will be stepping down from their roles, and to those that will be moving on to new appointments. We thank you as a district for all that you've given, for your time and your care and your commitment over the years, and we wish you every blessing in what comes next. It would be good, I think, you know, people don't like standing up, but I think it would be good to get people to stand up so we can say a proper farewell. So first of all, sitting down, though I doubt any of them will be actually physically sitting down, we have the Reverends Ian Lucraft and Jill Sharp. Ian's not with us, but I know Jill is. Where is Jill? Stay standing, Jill. We also have Deacon Lorraine Brow. I don't think Lorraine's with us. And I know Annabelle's not with us. She's elsewhere today. And we also have Emily. Now moving to new appointments and hopefully new and exciting adventures are the Reverends Jonathan Haig, who's over here, Claude Kimpindi, Angela Apothecary, Tracy Morris. Oh, you're not sitting down, Emily.
I'm very confused.
I know, it's okay, I'm confused. Please note that Emily is not sitting down. If you didn't notice how young she looked, Emily's definitely not sitting down. She's going to what is a really exciting appointment, and neither is Annabelle. Annabelle might hope she is, but she's not here to say that. But Emily, you're definitely not, are you? And also, where's Michelle? Reverend Michelle Deans, who's moving to a new appointment, but still in the district. So we're not saying goodbye in the same way to Michelle. But friends, we wish you well in whatever is coming your way. I'm sure you'll want to chat with people over lunch and break about the exciting appointments or your exciting plans for sitting down. Shall we give them all a great big round of applause?
Now, we normally send correspondence from the Synod to people we want to greet. And what we're trying this year is a new mechanism by which, instead of naming them here in the meeting, there was a sheet when you came in at registration yesterday. Just as you head back up the ramp there, on the right, there is a green coloured table, I think it was, and on there a list. Please give your own name, the person who's proposing the letter. Please give the details of the person you want the letter sent to, as much detail as you can give us, and then the reason you want the letter sent, okay, so that we have as much information as possible. That's on the table near the resources, near the door. Thank you. And also just to say, you've got your goodie bags. Inside the goodie bags are all kinds of goodies. And yes, please do write your name on the front. There's a place for you to write your name on your own bag. And the reason we say that is because, and this is shameful to mention, but in the past, we've had comment made that someone took my bag. So please put your name on. And so we can cut back on the sin of purloining in the synod today. Inside the goodie bag, you will find this time round district magazine, and a big round of applause to Sam for pulling that off once again. Can we say thank you, Sam? I don't know if we have the time yet to look through and see anything in the magazine, but again, it is excellent in its presentation and its quality and in its in what's inside there in terms of its articles and everything you need to see. So please do take it today, read it yourself, and give as many away as you can. All right. We don't have any circuit boxes this time. Normally we have boxes with lots of stuff inside them for the different circuits, so I don't need to remind you to pick those up at the end today, but you will maybe be missing those and thinking my life is not complete without the circuit boxes. Don't worry about it. There's nothing to put in this time that's not inside your bag. You will notice through in the main hall, in the church hall over here, where we'll be having lunch later on, there are a number of market stalls. We've got Cliff College, we've got UTU, All We Can, Fair Trade, Methodist Homes, and a stall from Catherine as well, with some resources there as well. There will be a number of videos to see during breaks today and at lunchtime that have been sent to us by The Connection and by different Methodist organisations for you to look at and to watch. And please do take time to notice those. That's all I have for now.
We now come to the reports, which you will have all received in advance, and I hope you've had the opportunity to read through them. Firstly, we're going to note the lay authorisations for the sacrament being applied for in the following places. So we have Nick Waterfield in Sheffield, it's a renewal. Keith Mears in Doncaster, it's a renewal. Christine Oakley in Doncaster, a renewal. Elizabeth Worsley in Doncaster, renewal. And in addition, we have one new application for 3 years, which is received for Sean Worsley in Doncaster. These applications have been considered and approved by the district leading team on behalf of Synod and have been sent to the authorisation committee for final approval and authorisation by the Methodist Church. And now can I draw your attentions to matters that reflect change within our shared life, both in how and where we gather together. Firstly, in relation to Hatfield House Lane, the society will continue to meet, but will cease worship in the current building, which will move into circuit trusteeship. Synod is asked to affirm this change and support it. Is Synod supportive? And there are also to note that Pogmore Fellowship have now ceased to meet, and we will as a Synod pray for them as they decide what fellowship, what society they will belong to. Are there any other matters arising from the reports that members of Synod would like to raise? We'll now move then to receive the reports en bloc. We're very grateful to everyone who has contributed to the reports that are before us and for the work and commitment that they represent. Together they give us a picture, and we've got a couple still to look at that Sean will be talking about. They give us a picture of our shared life together. So many thanks to all who've been involved for submitting reports. So I'd like to invite Synod to receive the reports. we received a memorial to conference from the Sheffield Circuit, and Sean and I had a little conversation about Indigit speaking to that, but it's just occurred to me that Indigit's actually at another synod. I've just remembered he's at another synod talking about pilgrimage and City of Sanctuary. I'm sure we'll get him to talk about his new pilgrimage at a later date. But the Sheffield Circuit have submitted a memorial concerning the Methodist Church exploring becoming a denomination of sanctuary. And as a synod, we note the memorial and we thank the Sheffield Circuit for bringing this important and really timely matter before the wider church. And we report on this further at the autumn synod. Thank you.
At the back of the reports, you'll see a report from the worship and preaching end of our work, and you'll note the local preachers who have passed away on the inside back cover since last year. If there are any other names to add to that or to communicate to the conference office, do let us know. I've just had one over the last few days, and that's for Sylvia Seacombe from the Retford area, from the Trinity Circuit. We notice we mark that in our report as well. We add that to our report. But if there's any others, please do have a word with me afterwards to make sure that that's properly conveyed to the to the connection for inclusion in the Book of Remembrance. And just once again, I should have said when I was mentioning the goodie bag, do take time to read the reports. Thanks to Catherine pulling that all together. And do take time to, I would say, even prayerfully read and reflect upon the Chair's message, introduction on the inside the cover. There's some useful reflective thoughts there that would be good to take into our prayers. Alison Trezines, is that Alison here? Alison, we're going to give you the opportunity just to say a few words about fair trade if you wish at this point. Yeah, just come to the microphone, thank you.
Hello there, folks. I've got actually, I want to say something about Christian Aid as well, but that's going to be very quick afterwards. Fair trade, yes, there is a report in the in here or about the Fair Trade report. There is one date missed off it actually because it says Fair Trade fortnight no longer during Lent, and it will run from, and it just says September. But if you look at, there's a little bit of green paper in your goodie bag as well. So if you want to take that and stick that in page 10, it will tell you that it's actually from Monday, the 21st of September to Sunday, the 4th of October, which is fantastic because you always used to be in Lent and people couldn't make chocolate cake, which is a disaster, isn't it? So you can make chocolate cake now and it fits wonderfully in. The Fair Trade Foundation don't really do faith resources anymore, but there is a link in there. I found some, they sent me information from Christian Concern for One World. I have emailed them to see if they're going to update for this year. But if you, I think, Catherine, you're going to put it on, the information will go on soon. It's not till September, you've got plenty of time. So the information from last year's worship resources, there's a ready-made sermon. I mean, you know, nobody will notice it's last year's. Unless somebody's really keeping an eye on the lectionary, you know, the fact it's year C rather than year A, I think you're probably not going to get anybody complaining. But hopefully they might update it. If they do, updated stuff will go on. So there are, you know, please think about Fair Trade Fortnight, weaving it in to your season of creation. And if you're a Fair Trade church, there's a dead easy way to renew your commitment. If you're not a Fair Trade church, there is a dead easy way to make your commitment now. It's greatly improved on the website. And can I just put a Christian Aid hat on for 1 minute? Chair of Sheffield Christian Aid as well. Don't forget, Christian Aid week coming up starts on the 10th of May. They do have fabulous resources. There's probably another ready-made sermon for you, PowerPoint, order of service, prayers, the lot. for the 10th of May or the 17th of May. So I know most of you here will be people going, thank goodness for that. That's one Sunday I know I've got sorted. So please use their resources. They're brilliant. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alison. Andrew Stobbart, our principal from Cliff College, so great theological resource within our district. Just going to fill the space while he's making the way to the front. There was an English fan, a Scottish fan, I'll go for it. You're okay.
Good. Cut you up on the joke. There we go. It's a great privilege to be located within the Sheffield Synod. Cliff College is the Methodist Church's lay training college. We are a ministry of the Methodist Church, and we exist to equip and inspire ambassadors of the joyful news of Jesus. We've got a stall in the marketplace. Please do come and see me and pick up some leaflets that you can take to your circuit. I've got some leaflets which give you 4 opportunities for your engagement, particularly at this time. The first is for Easter to Pentecost, which is a resource for discipleship from Easter to Pentecost. There's some weekly videos and reflective materials. It's just £10 for you to sign up for that resource, and you'll get weekly resources direct into your online learning space. So please do look at that. Next week, we have a new podcast called the Joyful News Broadcast, which is going to be released. So there's a QR code so that you can be the first to listen to that. There's some really inspiring, joyful news stories of God at work through the ministry of Cliff College. We've then got a year of transformation. You'll see a very nice Cliff College hoodie on the stand. You can get a free Cliff College hoodie, or a member of your church or circuit can, if you sign up for one of our courses before the 30th of June and complete through to registration. There are 3 ways you can have a year of transformation. One is if you're between 18 or 25, or you know someone who is, for just under £3,500, you can have a whole year of residential life at Cliff College, engaging in mission, discipleship and evangelism. The Cliff Year currently, at this present moment, are in Romania doing ministry and mission. They get all of that for just £3,500, as well as a year of residential catered life. We couldn't do that anywhere else, could we? So if you know someone 18 to 25 who doesn't know what they're doing next year, sign up for Cliff Year. There's a couple of other things that are years of transformation. And finally, Cliff Festival, May Bank Holiday weekend. This is a high point in the college's year. I've got lots of leaflets for you to take to your churches if you're able to. This is our annual festival weekend, which we run for and on behalf of the Methodist people to equip and inspire us to be ambassadors of joyful news. We pray that this weekend will be really meaningful. You can sign up for the whole weekend, come and camp with your church. You can also just come and attend for a day. For a half-day ticket, it's just £10. So come for big tent worship with 500 people with your church or just on your own for half a day. On the Monday morning, we've got an anniversary service celebration with baptisms and renewal of affirmation vows. We've also got the president of conference preaching on that bank holiday Monday evening, which will include communion. But we've got all sorts of things happening. We've got comedians, we've got music artists, we've got spoken word artists. So lots to do. £10 for a half-day ticket, £22 for a full-day ticket, or the whole weekend for, I think it's between £50 and £60. So please do consider coming to the festival. This is our festival for you to equip and inspire the Methodist people as ambassadors of joyful news. So all of these leaflets with QR codes at the stand, please come and get them from me. Thank you.
We're now moving on to appointments. As a district, we're currently holding a number of vacant roles. And if you feel that you would like to fill one of those roles, I know some of you might be looking at me and think she's already asked. There are a few of you, you know who you are, who are contemplating some of these roles. But I'm going to ask Catherine on Monday to send them out to your respective circuits and have a look to see if there's something that might appeal to you. I have to say this because you wouldn't forgive me. Our ecumenical officer has been trying to retire from that role. I think could be a decade. So if anyone's really interested in ecumenism, we're also looking to appoint a new deputy chair as the Reverend Julie Coates steps down from that role this summer. Julie, would you like to come on? You're going to speak in a minute, so you're all right.
Yes, that's fine, yes. Yeah.
On behalf of us all, Julie, I want to say that we're very grateful, really grateful for all that you've done for the district. I also have to say that I haven't got a sabbatical planned, and I'm not going to be president for a number of reasons, other than I have a hate of travel lodges. So don't let anything put you off, because poor Julie has had to cover a presidential year in her time. And we're very grateful, Julie, for all that you've done, for your wisdom, insight, and the care that Julie's given in and alongside her day-to-day roles as superintendent. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Julie, as well as being deputy chair, has held the supervision SIP and looks after things all supervision, which is another big role. So Julie's going to chat a little bit to you about that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vicky. Thank you, everybody. Those of you who are ordained or are within the lay pastoral work within the circuits will know that, or hopefully will be receiving supervision, or will know that supervision is something that is offered to you. I find supervision personally immensely helpful. It is that intentional space and time to step aside from things and reflect on what's happening within the work life, and sometimes to get things out of your head in quite a creative way so that you can see it differently and implement perhaps some changes. It's reflecting on the past, in the present, for the future. It's also about being held accountable as a minister or as someone with a pastoral role for what you do. And it's that supportive way of encouraging you in the work, but also asking about times of risk or things that might be coming up that you need to address. My favourite illustration of supervision is that you can often feel like you are a tightrope walker, or you are a trapeze artist. If that was a metaphor for your work, then what you need is a safety net underneath you. And supervision is being allowed to fall from the trapeze, from the tightrope, and rest in that safety net. And doing that gives you a different view of your work, a different view of what's happening around you. So supervision is a chance to do that. We do not have enough supervisors at the moment across the district. And this is something that ordained or lay people can train to do over a 6-day training programme. If you would like to explore that, please come and have a chat with me, and then you'd be having a chat with your superintendent, and we could take the next steps to put you forward to be trained as a supervisor. So please do bear that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. So we've this morning we've welcomed Mark, but now it's great to introduce him to share with us. I think it's worth saying before Mark comes up and shares that the connection is really invested in enabling circuits to listen deeply to their communities, and has helped to fund part of Mark's role. And he shared with me this week that at part of one of his meetings in London, that there was a number of connectional people said that community organising from a faith perspective is going to save the Methodist Church. So Mark comes with great responsibility to share with us this morning. But actually, I really wasn't surprised at that, because I've said for a number of years, and I've shared this with Mark, that I think the future of the Methodist Church is about how we listen and engage and partner with our communities, and we do that really well. So doing it in a as a practice with someone enabling us to do that, I think is a really positive. So, Mark, no pressure. Come and share with us what it means to be intentional listening communities. Thank you.
Yeah, my first time in this role, I had a Zoom meeting, and the first thing I found out was that I'm leading this gathering, which is great. So thank you for that. But it's been wonderful to be part of an amazing team. Today we're going to look at faith rooted community organising. I'm going to probably drop it to FRCO because we'll be, it takes so long and we've got very limited time. So every minute that I talk about it like that is going to be slowing us down. So what we're aiming to kind of achieve from this morning's session is I actually want to know really what it is. Okay, and I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to look together about the practices and then why. Why is it important? But first, we were talking about listening. I'm wrestling with this idea of the difference between listening and hearing at the moment. And I've been kind of wrestling that for a while. What's the difference? What is there a difference and what is it? And I've realised there's one part. And that is that we interpret everything. You're interpreting everything you hear from me now. We interpret everything through a lens and through our glasses. I can see now, if I take these off, I see a different view. In fact, it's a lovely blurred view, probably better for me. But we all see differently by the situations and our life and our upbringing, what we've been through, who we are. And those things help us interpret what we're hearing. So when we talk especially about listening to our communities, we need to understand first that we hear that differently, each of us, by our ideology that we bring to the listening practice. So I'm going to get you to do something right at the beginning. In your pack, there is a blue, I don't know if they look blue. The greeny blue colour you have on it, you know what it is, because it's the one with not much information in it compared to the other one. And in there's an ability to write. And what I want you to try to do, now, this takes years, so it'll take it, so I'm going to do it in minutes. But what I want you to do is think about your life, and what are the things, what are the lenses that you look through? So what are the things that have influenced you that help, that kind of creates the picture of what you see? Now that's hard, I know, but I just give you a pointer. When I was about, I grew up in the 80s, and when I was younger, there was a film called Cry Freedom, which was about apartheid. And that, at the time, influenced my thinking and influenced everything that I did after that. When I was blessed to go through Cliff College, and I went to Cliff College, I studied a lot around Black theology because it interested me about Steve Biko and all of those kinds of things. That led me on to thinking about liberation theology. And if you talk to me now, everyone will say to you, my lens that I look through is tinted by a liberational idea, but it's also tinted by a white working class background. And those things mean that I see things in different ways. So I want you just to I'm only going to give you, literally, because we're running a bit behind time, I'm only going to give you a few minutes just to write down on your own. You're not going to share this with anyone. But I want you to take this away and then continue to build on it. I want you to write down the things that influence you, the lenses that you see through. Just think about your life and write those down. Okay? We've got a couple of minutes. Right, I hope you've had a chance just to start to put down a few things. As I said, it takes a lot longer than that to do it. But what I want you to do is start thinking about what are the lenses that I see through. Because when we do that, when we start listening to our communities, we will start to realise we interpret things in a way, and it'll help us to listen better and to hear better. We're going to continue on that now by listening to the story of the woman at the well in John 4, 1 to 42. But we're going to hear it from the perspective of the woman.
I didn't go to the well at noon by accident. No one goes there unless they have a reason. Morning is when the other women gather, talking, laughing, sharing news. I used to be part of that once. But things change, people remember, they talk. They decide who you are and don't let you forget it. So, I learned to come when the sun burns the hottest, when no one else wants to be there. Except that day. He was there. A man. A Jewish man. I almost turned around. Nothing good comes from that kind of encounter. Jews don't speak to Samaritans, and men don't casually speak to women. Unless they want something, or unless it's to remind you where you stand. But before I could leave, he asked me for a drink. Just like that. No hesitation, no disgust, no edge in his voice. It threw me off. I even challenged him. Why are you asking me? You shouldn't even be speaking to me. But he didn't back down or get defensive. He just kept talking about living water, about something more than what I had come for. At first I thought he was either confused or joking. He didn't even have a bucket. Still, I played along. Maybe out of curiosity. If this living water meant I didn't have to keep coming back here, keep doing this walk, this routine, this quiet avoidance of everyone, then I would take it. Then he shifted the conversation.
Go. Call your husband.
That word hit like a stone. I gave him the shortest answer I could. I don't have a husband. That should have ended it. But he didn't let it drop. Not in a cruel way. Worse. In an honest way. He laid my life out in front of me. The marriages, the man I was with now. Not guesses. Facts. Kind of truth people whisper about when they think you can't hear. I braced myself for the judgment, the tone I knew so well. It didn't come. He said it plainly, no smirk, no lecture, no pulling away from me like I was something unclean. It was a strange experience. I've had people speak about me, but never to actually hear me. And here he was, seeing everything and still choosing to stay in this conversation. So I changed the subject. Not because I didn't care, but because it suddenly mattered too much. I brought up religion, the old argument, our mountain or theirs. It's safer to debate theology than to sit inside your own story, but he didn't argue like others. He spoke about God as if God wasn't confined to a place. Like, worship wasn't about proving who's right, but about something real, honest, something that comes from the inside out. Spirit, truth. No performance, no pretending. I felt exposed again, but not in a way that made me want to run. In a way that made me feel, for the first time in a long time, like I didn't have to hide. So I said what I always held on to. The one hope that I didn't depend on other people's opinions. The Messiah is coming. He will sort all of this out. And then he said it.
I am he.
No drama, no spectacle. Just said it. To me. Not to a priest, not to someone important, to me. A woman people avoid. A woman with a past everyone knows. I didn't even think. I left my jar and ran. Ran back to the same people I'd been avoiding, and I told them everything. Well, not everything, but enough. Come and see a man who told me everything I have ever done. I expected pushback. Eyes roll, dismissal, but something in how I said it, or something in me, made them listen. And that's the thing I can't shake. He listened to me first. Before anyone else listened to my words, he listened to my life, not to fix it immediately, not to shame it, not to turn it away but from it, but to acknowledge it fully. And somehow that changed everything. People came, they met him. They heard him themselves, and in the end, it wasn't just my story anymore, it became theirs too. But I still think about that moment at the well. Not the miracle, not even the claim of who he was, but the way he spoke to me, like I was worth listening to.
I hope that helped us realise a real critical part, which is that what we must share today isn't new. It isn't some kind of amazing special thing. It's what Jesus did. He listened and shared. And I hope that gave you a different perspective of that story and how listening is vital in our conversations and in our relationships. So, go through to community organising. I'm hoping I'm going to get it. There we go. We got it. So, community organising is a tool for bringing people together to serve the common good. As such, it is no different from other tools like a hammer, a pen, or a computer. The value of the tool is determined by the people who use it and what they decide to use it for. That's taken from a book by from a writer from Tim Norwood called Christ the Organiser, which is this book. I'm going to put a quick plug. It's a very thin book. It's a very easy book, and I think it's a brilliant opportunity to understand what faith-rooted community organising is and how it looks. So let's see if it works. Yeah, it does. Sorry, I'm always chuffed when something actually does work. Community organising is about building relationships. It's about gathering people together and using collective power to act. So community organising has been around for a long time. Just to give you some ideas, not only do we see it through our own history, we see it in primitive Methodism to a degree, we see it, as we said, through scripture, but we also would now see it quite a lot more clearer in the civil rights movement. If you can see that, how they gather together and beyond. So it's not a Christian thing as such, if you get what I mean. It is a set of practices that have been used around the world. What we do is we bring our love of Christ into using those practices. So we bring our faith into those practices. We started with this idea of lenses. What lens? And one of the lenses that we do is we bring our lens of faith so that we can see, obviously, justice and peace and transformation And it's part into our calling, isn't it? You know, the calling of the Methodist Church is to respond to the gospel of God's love in Christ and to live out its in discipleship, in worship and mission. Community, faithful to community organising, or FRCO, and it gives us a framework to do this. And we're going to explore the practices, but it gives us a framework. And what does it aim to do now? Oh, we're going to go too far, too quick, because I've got a clicker, and that's never a good thing. Let's be honest, I'm a fidget, as you'll see, because I can't stand in one place more than 30 seconds, if you're lucky. So we'll jump and jump back. I apologise. Now, James, I need to clarify this, because this slide is done by the Methodist Church, and when I read this, it makes it sound like it's a project that's going to take over all of these things, but it's not. It's a practice. So the aim is for the practices to support our churches to transform, to work alongside new people and new places projects to help establish new Christian communities. And when we look at it and we think about it in a bit, you'll see how I get how that works. And obviously to embed the practice of justice, to be in a justice-seeking church. That's what the aim of FRCO, but it is, and I come back to this, it is a practice. It is not a project. We're not talking projects. We're not talking of another activity you've got to do. We're talking about a way of doing what we already do. And that's the mindset you have to change in your thinking about it. Because often we go, oh no, this is something else, it's another burden that we are going to have to put on and going to have to do. It's not. It is about changing the way that we think we do stuff. So, I want you to have a minute or two. I should have said before, it's going to be active, this. You're not going to be able to sit there and just enjoy sitting there if you can. But it's actually going to have to do stuff. I want you to first describe the community. I want you to think first about the community you live in and try and describe it in 3 words. I'll give you a minute. I'm going to be quick. You know, you got a minute to do that. And then you can then share that with the person next to you. Okay? So you've got 1 minute to think about 3 words that describe your community that you live in. And then you can share them. Right. So I'm going to move on to try and outline the principles of the practices that we're talking about. And I couldn't help but stick in a bit of a really great liberation theologian, Augusto Gutierrez, when we start this. And it says this: we find the Lord in encounters with others, especially the poor, marginated and exploited ones. An act of love towards them is an act of love towards God. So, the core practices of faith-rooted community organising. We've been hinting one of these all along, which is about listening. It's about intentionally listening to each other. Now, this is interesting within our churches, because let's just take, you all have been involved, I suspect, in a church council meeting. Yeah? Yeah. Think now, just for a millisecond or so, just think, whose voices do you hear? Whose voices do you hear? In a meeting, in a broader meeting, whose voices do you hear? Yeah, you hear the voices of the powerful. the voices of those who either believe they have power or have power. We don't hear everyone's voice, do we? We don't hear everyone in the room. We only hear certain people. Often we call them gatekeepers. We only hear those voices. FRCO is about hearing everybody's voice. It's about asking, who are we not hearing? Who are we not hearing in our room, in our meetings? And so this is where it goes all the way through the church's life. Who are we not hearing in our leadership meetings? Who are we not hearing in our church council meetings? Who are we not hearing and why? And how can we hear them? And that starts with one-to-one listening. And we'll carry on into that. But it's about that. Who are we hearing? And then can we gather people together? It's about gathering together and discerning together where we go. And that's partly within our church life, but also broader in our community. We gather together and discern together. And then it's about share gifts, share skills, and really important, and we're going to wrestle with this for you all, and it will probably make some of us feel very uncomfortable, collective power. And from that, we're moving forward to action. And then the final kind of principle in it is about reviewing. Do you know we're really good sometimes in Methodist Church about acting? We'll do something, we might not listen, let's be honest. Often don't listen, we often have an idea that we think is good for the community, especially if we do. But we act, but we never review. We don't sit back and go, okay, what have we done? What have we achieved? What has God done for us in this place? What can we celebrate? I think sometimes that as a church, we've dropped into a model of downward looking about ourselves. We look downward. You know, I was invited to go to Wales Kiverton to their Soup and Song. And I was blown away by how many people from the community and how a wonderful atmosphere it was. And actually, those are the things we've got to be looking at. I mean, we've got to be celebrating, and we've got to be celebrating the things that we do, not just being disappointed about the things that haven't happened. And so, within our process, it's listening, gathering, collective power and action, and reviewing and starting again. Any of you who are used to cycles of change will see that same cycle. Do you know what I mean? You listen, you gather, you act, you reflect, and you go again. It's a cycle. And that is what the Methodist Church is trying to get us involved with. It's that cycle within our lives of our churches, within our lives of the districts and our circuits. And it's not new for us, is it, really? It's about rediscovering who we are as a Methodist church. So, we couldn't do anything without you all being involved some way, could we? So, we brought it in. This is the cycle. And we're going to look at it a little bit more. But before we move on to that, in the amazing District magazine, there is another version of this that we put together. Just gives you simple ways to do that. So when you're wandering through the magazine, you'll see it is the giant piece that you can look at. So our first step is what we call, TV's going off on so many minutes. Our first step is what we call connecting. So connecting is about connecting with God. Connecting with what He's doing. It's about our relationships. It's about seeing where Jesus is, where God is at work. You know, often, I have a question. Do you think that God is at work outside of us? I hope so. I hope we believe in a God who is the Missio Dei, who is in action, in mission, without us being there. So when we talk about all the FRCO and going out into the community in a bit, actually what we're going out to do is see where God is already at work and engage with what he is already doing. So we start with connecting, and that's about one-to-one conversations in our churches to start with, and listening to one another. We then start one-to-one conversations in our communities. Everything's going wrong, but we'll keep going. One-to-one conversations in our communities. And we asking the questions about our community. We're asking, you know, what is good and what can change and what needs to change. And together, we start to build a relational picture. This is key, please. It's not questionnaires. This is not going out and doing a survey. This is about building relationships with people within your community. And then, when we have built those, it's about drawing those people together. And that's our second part, as we see, we go to gathering. So at that point, it's about bringing all of those people together for a conversation. Again, we'll come back to that point that we said earlier. Who are we hearing in the room? We make sure that we're hearing everybody and not just those with power. We gather together, we share, and we discern together where there's needs in our community and how together, both as a church and a community, we can impact on that. So it could be something like refugees, an issue of refugees within our community that we feel we should, as a community, be involved with. But it could be something as simple as a piece of land just outside the church that's a mess. But as we listen to our community and we hear what their concerns are, we act together in that. So it's about gathering together to decide and discern what we could do. At that point, we are looking at power. Where's the power in this issue? Where can we see, where can we make changes? So it could be about a group of people going to the council and saying that piece of land out there is a mess. And that's when we move on to the acting. So we move from gathering together, where we hear the voices and we discern together. And that isn't about trying to do something massive. It's small. Doing something small together. And then we move on to action. And so it's really important when we come to action that we are working with the community, that this isn't us as individuals or us as a church, that we don't do, when we're at the table at the gathering point, yeah, and you're sat there talking around, and they all say, oh, well, there's these issues. And we say, so who's going to do something about it? And no one says they want to do anything. Then what do? You do nothing. And you go back to listening and building the relationship, and you go again. You don't do it just because you think it's a good thing. The amount of times that we do stuff as churches we think is a good thing and then go, why aren't people coming in, or why isn't this happening? We do it with consultation and collectively together. So the action must be something we do together. And we start small. So it could be something really small. and then you build. Because as you start with anything like this, it's all about confidence, isn't it? It's the confidence of us as the church engaging with new people that we haven't engaged with before, and it's a confidence of the community engaging with us. So if we start small and we get an easy win, it builds confidence. And as we build, we can try new things, go bigger. So we act. And then we move on to what we've talked about, which is our reflective time, which is the time in which we reflect on what has happened, what we have achieved, and we celebrate. And do you know what? I think this is a great chance. You know, when you've done something together as a community and you bring the community together with you for a celebration, it's an opportunity to continue to build and develop those relationships, to strengthen those relationships, and to hopefully opportunities for us to share the love of Christ into their lives. Because this, in the end of the day, is about helping people discover who Jesus is. And so as we do that, we get an opportunity. We've talked a bit, and I'm just going to finish this section before we reflect a bit on this. Change happens when we use our collective power. You know, even something like the Black Civil Rights Movement, what was that? That was individuals coming together to use their collective power to say we want change. You know, as a church, how much power do we have if we come together with our communities to say, within our community, we want to see this changed, or we want that changed? Through FRCO, we use our collective power to bring transformation together. Now, I should have somebody's going to come and Catherine's going to come out and hand out something called the Wheel of Power. Now, it's not perfect, but I want you to do this. I want you to share. You'll have to share one between two because it came off my printer and I haven't got enough for 100 odd people. I want you to look at it and think about how you relate to this. So let me just look on here. So you might be someone who is like, let's do me. I'm white. I'm formally higher educated. We'll dump some just so that we don't, but I am neurodiverse. So that comes on that side. You know, so you put yourself into there. It's not perfect. You know, some of the, you know, when we talk about power, some of these are more important than others, say be a little bit, I think. But have a reflection on how do you relate to that and how does it make you feel? So moving on to the final part, why is faith rooted community organising matter? And I couldn't help but sneak in a bit of Paulo Freire right now for you to enjoy. So washing one's hands of the conflict between the powerful and the powerless means to side with the powerful, not to be neutral. I'll do that again because I think it needs a second to go to fit in. Washing one's hands of the conflict between the powerful and the powerless means to side with the powerful, not to be neutral. Not to be neutral. So why does FRCO matter? Well, first of all, it matters because it's a brilliant way for us as church to be who we've been for years and to recapture it. If you go back and look at primitive Methodism, what do you see? You see a society a church that engaged with its society and transformed it. It transformed it, and we don't celebrate that enough. You look, trade union movements, even, I like nearly said sadly, well, a bit, the Labour Party, all of that stems from the primitive Methodist heritage. We have a heritage of community transformation. And why it matters is that that is where we are now, and we can recapture that. We can be a church that impacts our community and transforms the situations that our communities are in. I live in an area that's an area of poverty. I live in an area where there's a part of our town where 47% of children live in poverty. A country that's wealthy where 47% of a community's children live in poverty. And we, as the church and as the Methodist Church, have an opportunity by using these practices to make an impact into the statistics like that. Don't we? So our practices of FRCO enable us to live in the world, in the reality of the world as it is, whilst hoping and working for a world that it should be. That's what we're doing. That's why it matters. Yeah, we live in a world where we know these things are, but we're working as a church for a world as it should be. And it starts with our own stories. It starts with your story, with my story. And it starts with our understanding as Christians how God's story is woven through. It's about us actually first. You know, if you're going to listen to someone, then there's going to want to be a replication, isn't there? Not many people will sit there, allow you to listen to them and not want you to engage. So it's about us engaging, building relationships, and at the time sharing our story, both our personal story and the story of the amazing God that we have. It's about us having an opportunity of sharing our story. And I try to start this at the beginning. This is not a program. This isn't a program. It's a practice. And it's about putting people first. You know, the most important thing that we'll be doing is building relationships. Building relationships and being engaged with our communities. And every one of us has a part to play in that. Everyone. It's about people before programs. And it's about actually doing it. So community organising and faith-rooted community organising is learn on the job. Let's be honest with you. I can give you a manual to learn to swim and you could read it. But until you get into the water, you don't know how to swim. You learn by doing. Community organising and faith-rooted organising is learnt by being involved and doing. It's getting out there, and that's why in the magazine there is a really simple way to start. Simple ways to be involved. But what I really want to say is it's not a quick fix. You know, how long does it take you to build a relationship with someone? It can take a long time. This isn't a miracle quick fix, guys. It isn't about something that you do. You know, this isn't about selling you a program that's going to fix the church. This is about long-term relationships with our internally within our church and within our communities. That takes time. And it can't be rushed. Because if it's rushed, it becomes fake, doesn't it? If we're not doing this to suddenly become a fake organization that's just simply trying to sneak people into the kingdom by just pretending that we want relationships. We do this because we want relationships with our community. And if that takes longer, that takes longer. But as we do it, people will be drawn into the kingdom of God. But it takes time. So I hope that that gives you an understanding of the beginnings of faith-rooted community organising. As I say, an hour isn't enough to sit here and get in depth into how all of that works. But hopefully you get a taster of how it works, or how it's working. What I want you to do, though, is if you've got questions about how it might work, write them down in your book. And at the end of the second section we're doing later this afternoon, we're going to do circuit conversational stuff there. And in that, at the end, we're going to have questions and answers. So if you want, well, just questions that might not be answers, but there'll definitely be questions. So if you've got a question right now and you go, oh, I really want to ask that, write it down. And at that section, we're going to give time for that. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Mark. And Mark's going to be sharing a bit later with us. And what I would say, if some of what Mark's sharing feels complex, or in fact the opposite, very simple, stick with it. Once it lands and once you begin to understand how this practice works, it will change how you do meetings and how you do church. And obviously Mark's a member of the district now, so those conversations can happen long after today. Welcome back from lunch. It's usually a good sign, struggling to round people back up. It means that they're really enjoying each other's company, so that's no bad thing. But we do need to begin again. So welcome back. We're now going to hear from Julie Cox about a project that Neil back. Okay, Mark, will you see if you can find him? So we're going to hear from Neil and Julie about a district project. Here it comes. Julie's been doing some work with her communities, which she's going to share with you. And then Neil will share all about this project, which is going to be open to the entire district and to circuits as a wider district project. So enjoy. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. I'm conscious in saying this that many of you in your churches will be much further on in building relationships and having conversations with those who are marginalised, those who are asylum seekers or refugees. And we are just at the beginning of this journey in Retford. And I am conscious too that I'm sharing with you my story. This is the nudges that I've had along the way to do something about this. To make sure that all are welcome does indeed transition on to all belong. So at the Grove last December, end of November, December, we decided that the Advent course we would study would be this Searching from Home, the York course, that looks particularly at the experience of Jesus and the Holy Family when they were forced to seek refuge in Egypt. We found those 4 weeks very good, but we kept having the same conversation every time. We know this is important and we need to do something about it, but we're not quite sure what. I had the chance to preach on this as well to probably one of the larger congregations I've preached to in a while on that Sunday between Christmas and New Year, when all of the churches in Retford came together at Grove Street to share a service ecumenically. And the reading was The Massacre of the Innocents. And I should tell you, my daughter-in-law works for the National Trust, so we get lots of National Trust presents whenever it's Christmas or birthdays. In fact, for Easter, we had some very nice hot cross bun fudge. But Christmas time, she brought me she brought me this frankincense and myrrh scented soap. And I just had it and I used it as a sort of an aid in that sermon, that there are things that we like to make, I don't know, we cover them over. We don't actually relate to them very well. So we can cover over this horrific story at the heart of Christmas with something that just smells nice or is nice. Or we use this like a giant rubber to try and rub out that part of the story and we overlook it. And I probably had more responses after that service than any for a little while. People saying, I'd never looked at that story of the flight to Egypt and compared it with contemporary life before. Now, that quite surprised me that people hadn't made that connection, but I was glad to have been a little nudge to them along the way. So when we couldn't decide what to do after the Advent course, we thought we need to call another separate meeting when we have time to find out what's going on in our area and how we might put together some courageous conversations. We need in that session to listen and to find out what is needed in our area. And I think the other nudge for me came at the same time as we were planning that session. I went on the faith-rooted community organising with other superintendents and those who are training to be the FERCO leads. So together I was learning with them more about what this actually meant to engage in these sort of conversations within our community. So we had the session at the end of January and about 15 people came to that, and one person was working very closely with the local Ukrainian community and helping them and working alongside them within the area. Someone else though they lived in Retford, had experience of being part of a conversational group for refugees in Doncaster. And others from their previous work experience had got valuable things to share into that conversation. So we thought, what can we do? Let's find out more about local needs. Let's invite those quite sizable Ukrainian community in Bassetlaw to come and share some things with us. We were sort of warned in trying to build relationships with others from other countries that we sometimes think, let's get together and have a coffee, and we produce like an instant cup of coffee for them. And they come often from places where coffee is far superior to ours. So we have to learn some humility there along the way. After that session, when we were looking at what we might do, we found that because we'd asked the Ukrainian community what we might do, they came up quite readily with the suggestion that we could offer our premises for them making trench candles, which is melting down existing wax and setting it with cardboard into old tin cans. So we could collect tin cans for them. We could certainly collect old candles. We had so many tea lights that we'd lit once and weren't quite sure that we wanted to use again, but they could use them for that purpose, and other candles. And so for a few weeks, they had a couple of times a week a meeting at the premises in Grove Street to fulfil this project and to make the trench candles. We also discovered at that meeting when we came together that there is a gathering once a month on the first Sunday of the month for an hour at lunchtime in the marketplace in Retford that is a peace vigil and is a stand up to racism vigil. And I was quite ashamed I didn't already know about that. So I was glad that that came up into the conversation and other ideas came in too. I was able to have a couple of other conversations with people at that time and find out more about the work that they'd done and the ways in which they had engaged with other communities, and they all fed into this. And I think some of the principles from faith-rooted community organising helped with those conversations. We also remembered that we're almost overlooking someone within our own church community in Retford who'd come here recently from Hong Kong, who was looking for opportunities to volunteer in the local community, who was desperate to improve her English. So she's regularly at the church now, helping out with different groups as she had been for some time. But also she'll have been there this morning, hopefully playing table tennis and engaging with people in that way. So we felt we would very much like to extend this and to be part of the art of welcome. And the church at Grove Street lends itself very well to art exhibitions, to performing arts shows, and to engaging with the local community in this way. There is quite a lot of interest in art and performing arts within the Retford area, but we know that the children within the schools often come from quite disadvantaged backgrounds, and this would be something we could offer with that community if that's what they want, to develop and to learn together, and to provide some form of welcome for others. So we're keen to be involved in the Art of Welcome project that we'll be hearing about this morning. We feel like we've already had some nibbles of this. So the photograph that's on page 12 in the magazine is from the Rotary Club exhibition that they put up in the church last year on the theme of peace using children's artwork. So we felt like that had been something of a dry run for this. One of the people I had a chat with was the Arts and Heritage Officer for the Bassett Law area. And she said the things that they are particularly supporting and finding really helpful at the moment are poetry, cookery and gardening. And we are really fortunate that we have a garden and a good kitchen at Grove Street. So we feel there are ways forward. And the Ukrainian community are going to, some of the members from there are going to come and have some conversations with us in the middle of May. And they have offered their initiative to come and do a cooking evening and share their traditional dishes with us one evening. So we're really excited to be looking into that. I was trying to think, can I plan this all together so that the school have said if we did the Art of Welcome with them, they would be interested in some performing arts, some sort of theatre type thing. Can we link all this together, sort of theatre night, food night? That might be too much and might not be the right thing. But this is the sort of area that we are discovering and exploring at the moment. I also think in a conversation with another head teacher, it's been really helpful to say, I can see that from what you've told me about the curriculum and the opportunities and the challenges within your particular school, it might be a way that we could work together through this Art of Welcome project. Would this be something we could support you in? And that's been a really helpful conversation. So hold those thoughts. And by the way, I've got leftover copies of this Searching for Home Advent course. So if you want to get ahead and plan for next Advent, please let me know and I will pass them to you. Thank you for the opportunity to be involved with the Art of Welcome, and I'm looking forward to experimenting with this and using it to help build relationships.
Thanks, Julie. Yeah, Art of Welcome. I'm going to use two metaphors, possibly at the same time, for which I vaguely apologise. I guess kind of when we're talking about this conversational, courageous conversation type stuff, I sometimes think of it, it's like you're playing a tennis rally or something, that you hit the ball, and actually if it comes back over the net, then something seems to be working, I'll hit it again, and it comes back, and it comes back again, and you keep going. While the ball keeps coming back, you keep kind of knocking it back across. And so a little bit of the story of where we've got to where we are, and then I'll try and make some sense of where we think we might be able to go. So the kind of back in the autumn, we kind of, Vicky had a conversation with the superintendents about kind of Faith Over Fear Sunday. And we produced some resources, which quite a number of churches around the district engaged with and found really helpful. Following on, not that long afterwards, Sheffield Circuit took the initiative to get a banner for each of their churches saying all are welcome here. And that provoked, really simple, just a straightforward banner that says all are welcome, provoked a lot of engagement, some of that very positive, some of that more challenging, but it seemed to connect with people. Back in September, last time we were at District Gathering, we had Who Is Your Neighbour charity, which grew out of work of different faiths, particularly in South Yorkshire, and which Methodism had been a key part. Kath from Who Is Your Neighbour came and spoke to us about the work they do with facilitated conversations for people who feel threatened by change in their community. Again, which tied into that sort of theme about welcome and confidence with the place that we're in. And actually, since then, and about the time all this stuff was happening in Sheffield, Who Is Your Neighbour were approached by the Guardian newspaper to say, this type of conversation is just the type of thing that's of the moment. And they were invited by the Guardian newspaper to be part of their national Christmas campaign. So something else that was connected with us, a similar conversation was stirring as well. And so that kind of back and forth, the art of welcome is potentially, for the churches that you're involved in, maybe it's the next shot to play in that rally, or possibly a different analogy, maybe it's another tool in your toolbox. So it's not an initiative. Mark was saying this morning about practices and initiatives and so on. This isn't another thing that we're saying you must do, but hopefully it's a really useful tool to have in your toolbox and say, well, actually, now's the right moment. That would be helpful for us. So if it's the right tool for you, I hope you find it really helpful, and I hope you can help us to evolve it. But if it's not, that's fine. The art of welcome is building on some of the stuff that we've noticed from what Julie's been speaking about at the Grove, about how actually if we're looking to make people welcome and to make people know that they're welcome and to create spaces that reinforce the sense that people are welcome, sometimes words are helpful, but sometimes doing something more creative is a helpful enabler to that as well. So the purpose of Art of Welcome, or what it looks like, is about working with people, doing with people that we have a connection with, and we maybe need to build those connections first, do the one-to-one conversations, reaching out beyond ourselves, but with people who may have a particular reason to not be confident that they're welcome in this place, doing something creative, creating some sort of artwork that actually can then be on display and make the statement that this is a place where people are welcome. I was out at Mount Tabor Church in Sheffield on the Parsonal Cross estate a little while ago. Lots of little bits of artwork inside the building and outside the building, talk about love and acceptance and valuing. Lots of creative art-based work there. And it was fascinating talking to Nick Waterfield, who's pioneer there, about how this was a place in a troubled, what's often a troubled community, and a community where people don't feel safe, where everyone knew that they were safe. And actually, that wasn't by accident, that actually a lot had been done, and the art was part of that, creating a place where people knew that they were welcome. So the idea was to with people from beyond our church congregations who we've built a relationship with, doing something creative together that we can then put on display that says people are welcome here. We've got examples around this building of all sorts of things that have been done creatively to make particular statements. Those that have been on the prayer walks, the community walks just before lunch. I hope you picked up on the community murals and artwork, and actually a whole load of stuff to send particular messages through that as well. So this is another one that sits in those, as it's a bit of a theme. In our district magazine, there's a whole load of stuff in there explaining more detail. There's stuff on the website as well. But it follows through the pattern and the cycle that Mark was talking about this morning. Starting off, it's about partnership. Actually, who might your churches know or be able to build relationships with? How are you going to create a good, Julie spoke about some of the particular things the Grove had done to create a space that was the right form of welcome for people to feel engaged. So maybe it's about the coffee, or maybe it's something else for the particular people you're doing things with. And then to listen and to learn and to create together, not for our congregation, to do a bit of artwork about how welcoming we think we are for them, but actually a space to spend time doing together. A little while ago, we did, those who have been in the district for a while, we did the Justice Seekers quilt, where the intention with that as much as possible was people to sit down in groups and do artwork together. It opens up, it is a way of people who are maybe good with their hands, but not so confident to talk. When you're doing things with your hands together, you get a different type of conversation. So it's about doing together, spending time together, creating something that you can then put on display and you can celebrate and you make a statement. And then from that celebrating, you then go again. Well, actually, that's great. We've done that together. What might be the next thing that we need to do in this place? We're hopefully able to use some of the power, the convening power of the district and your collective power together. We've got some stuff in here. There's some stuff on the website already. We've got the offer of some helpful questions and also some money to spend money on resources if you need as well. That's all on the website. No irrelevant questions asked. There's a few questions to answer, but shouldn't be too taxing. And then also, as people start doing stuff, we'd really encourage people to share what you're doing, or share if you want to do something but you're not sure how to. There'll be someone else amongst us who knows what to do it. So there's a little bit of something of a wave as well. If we've got a few churches in a local area that are all doing something like this, then actually it's easier to feed off each other, and it's easy to articulate it to those around us as well, that it's a thing, you know, actually we're all part of this, and look, it's all over Facebook that others are doing this as well. So the art of welcome, it's a tool in the toolkit. It's about using creative means to, with people who might not automatically feel welcome, actually, how can we work together, learn from each other, and put something on display to celebrate that this is a place of welcome, as a few shots in a rally or a step on our journey to actually that bringing our community together, rooted in the faith that we hold deeply and the values that we gain from that. Actually, what do we do to empower those in our community who most need that power, most need to know that they're welcome, most need to know that they're safe and secure, to start making that sort of statement, and then build from there to transform our communities. So stuff in here, stuff on the website. Any questions, do ask. Yeah, off we go. Let's see where we go. It's creative. We don't quite know what it'll look like, but that's what happens when you create things together. So thanks very much.
Thank you. So we've listened, we've reflected, and we've been inspired today up to now. I think this is the moment to ask Mark to come back and guide us in what might we do next. And I think we're going to think about this now, sir. So Mark, over to you.
Thank you. I realised I took the radio mic off, which now means that I have to time myself to just hear, which could be a slight problem, but we'll do our best. We should have you got, can I have a PowerPoint up, please? Because there's some questions to come up. What I want you to do when they do come up on here, it's in your books as well. At the back, if you turn to the back of that colouring booky thing, not the one with all the writing in, the one that hasn't got any writing in unless you've written in it. There should be 3 questions in there, and I want you first to personally reflect on these. And so I've got a clicker and everything. Look at all this we're organised, because I was badly behaved and gave it all away. Thank you. So those are your questions. They're also in your book, so don't worry if you can't read them particularly on the screen. Basically, on your own first, and then with your neighbour, 3 questions. What have you gained from today? What areas have you found challenging or struggle with?
And how could you put these practices into action in your daily life or ministry? So, what have you gained from today? What have you found challenging? And how can you implement this in your daily life or your ministry, or both? I want you to share around your table. You know, the questions you've just done, what we now need to do is take those to a bigger table and say, what resonates with you? So what are the things that you, from what we've done today, do you go, yeah, that resonates, and I get that. What surprises or challenges you as a, you know, and so around the table, what that looks like. And then we're trying to gather that together in a minute. Okay? So around the table, bigger conversation about the same things. What resonates with you and what surprises or challenges you? You can, if you've already written on it, just be green and turn it over. Let's try and be helpful to our environment. So the questions we've got are, where could faith-rooted community organising take shape in your circuit, in your church or circuit? And then the underlying questions about that are, what opportunities can you identify as a circuit, and what would be a good first step? Okay, just thinking first step. What opportunities can you identify, and what would be the first good step? Okay, if you want to start to draw your conversations to a close, please, that would be great. I know normally when you sit around a table like this, you're now expecting for us to ask you to share what you've put down. And actually, I'm going to say to you, I don't want you to share what you've put down. What I want you to do is take away these conversations as an initial step and take those to your CLTs and to your churches and just start that conversation about how do we embed faith-rooted community organising into the life of our churches. Okay, so just take that away and work on it yourselves. Before I come to an end, I've got some shameless plugs for you. If you guys, if you were really interested in faith-rooted community organising, there are some courses at Cliff College run by the Methodist Church, and there's some of the dates of them for the next year over. If you do, as a district person, want to go on any of those courses, please see me as well, because what we'd want to do is, if you're going to go on a course like that, we want you to use those skills, and we want you to be connected with other people using those skills. So if you do go on the course, just let me know and say, I'd like to go on the course. It's really helpful for us all if you do. So please do that. Other than that, if you want some bedtime reading, some people always want to know what a good book to read. So these are good. Faith-rooted organising, and Organising Church is another good one. And then you can get the community organising itself as an organisation, and you can get a book based on community organising. That's really good. That does have things like that power diagram in it and other things like that. So that's really good. And I'm just going to keep shamelessly plugging this book because I really do like it. Christ the Organizer. It's so small, but it just gives you a really good idea, and it gives you practical ideas as well in it. So it's not just a kind of, some of those are good theory. This gives you some really good practical guidelines as well. So they're really useful if you want to take that further. But of course, the courses as well. We thought we would give you a few minutes if you want, if there are any questions that you want to ask about how it works. And we might need a runner with a microphone, do you think? There's a mic here. So, yeah, I'll go on, Carla. I'd have a good laugh. Go on. Oh.
I was also just going to say anything written by the late David Clark, who was a presbyter and went over to becoming a deacon because he wanted to do community ministry. So anything written by David is well worth reading.
Are there any other questions? So we've answered it all in one go, which is brilliant. Or we've worn everyone out, one or the other. Oh, Neil is putting his hand up. Go on, Carla.
This is kind of a planty type question. But if people are kind of wrestling with this and would appreciate some help in trying to think through, well, actually, I sort of understand this, but how do I actually do it and what practices mean in my place? What do they do?
You had to do that, didn't you? Yeah, so my role is to work alongside you. So that's my role is not to be stood up here particularly like as a sharing at this level, but it is to work alongside churches and circuits. And we're already doing that in some places, running some pilots. So if you are someone who's either struggling at this circuit level or at church level, yeah, my stuff is in the pack under Faith Roots Community Organising. You can see it on the website as well. Just email me and we can arrange to get together and start those conversations. Shameless plug, but thank you.
Friends, thank you. I just want to really echo what Mark's just said. There's been a lot of talking, a lot of listening, and there's a lot of things to land. So in terms of the Faith Rooted community organising weekends at Clip, you've just had really a little bit of a flavour of that. So actually putting the practice into action might feel a little bit daunting. So do ask for Mark to come along and he'll kind of step by step enable you. Once you understand it, it comes naturally. And it's easy to embed in your practices and, into your church life, in your meetings, and the way you do engage with your communities. So do ask him to come along because it is really, really worth investing in. And the other thing I would say is don't be daunted either by the word creative. I know some of us love the idea of being creative, and for some, that doesn't land very well. And Neil and Julie shared with us about the Art of Welcome project. Have a read of the magazine and what that entails, but I just wanted to share with you a story of where I saw that happening that may enable you to understand how you could do it, even if you're a very small church with very limited resources in terms of how creative you are. Years and years ago, I served in a church on Cottingley Estate in Leeds, and it was a Methodist, Anglican, Baptist, URC, all of those, church. They'd all come together and they'd built a church in the round in the middle of a community housing estate. And it was a really challenging part of South Leeds. Now, that building was used all the time, and they did an Art of Welcome project after a lady who, her and her family were seeking asylum, and she jumped from the top of the flat and committed suicide. The flats at the time, apparently, when they were first built, very old flats, were the highest in Europe. And it's like a wind tunnel, and it's a really, really awful estate. And they used to put a lot of people who were seeking asylum on that estate in those flats. And if you ever ask my husband about Cottingley Heights, that's what they called it, he can testify, because I often had him running up the stairs with things with me, like carpets for people. The lifts never worked. It was a dreadful, dreadful place. And after that, it shocked the community so much, they came together, and every user of that building and people from the local shops and the different denominations, they all created a ceramic tile, and the tiles were put around the building. And it was all about what welcome meant to them, what belonging meant to them on their estate. And there was a really eclectic mix of things. But it was a very easy project to do, and it started that community really talking. So don't feel at all daunted by the idea of engaging with your community, because you all will have schools that you can relate to and connect with that can do the work for you and can come into your church with the work that's being produced. So in true treasurer fashion, I'm looking at Neil, because he really skirted like this over the money bit of the art of welcome, but there are grants. Oh, there you go, £500 grants for the churches to engage with this. And if that means sharing, you know, and saying to the school, look, we can help fund this, how can we work together? So talk to us at any, you know, point in time about something that you creatively think you could do, and we're there to help. So we're coming now to our closing time of worship. And I think, you know, we've done a lot of talking to one another and listening. And I think that we're going to gather together all that's been named this day, and perhaps all that still sits quietly within us, because there'll be things that have been raised, ideas, challenges, maybe some of the anger, because we have talked about things that do generate anger sometimes, grief, the honesty that we've dared to bring to this space, as well as the possibilities and the hopes. We've been honest this day about the hurts we carry, naming all that is this synod. And we've listened, I hope, to one another and to the communities and the stories of the communities that we are called to serve, hearing their hopes, their dreams, the struggles and the questions. And we've noticed together, haven't we? Those of you that have walked, we've eaten together, we've shared food, and we've shared conversations, and we've prayed and reflected as a wonderful community of faith. And in all of those things, something has been forming, not just in what we've said, but also in how we have been with one another during this time. And so now we gather it all, the lament and the learning, the conversations and the silence we've kept, the challenges, but also the glimpses of hope, and the stories that we've heard, and the ones that we carry with us and as we journey to our homes later. We don't hold these things tightly for ourselves. We offer them, and we return them to the heart of God, the one who calls us, who listens more deeply than we ever could, and who equips us for all that lies ahead. And so as we go from here, we don't go empty-handed, but shaped by the time that we've shared. And that's really, really important. That's an important thing that we do when we gather. And we're held within that faithful, loving heart. So
please remain standing and we will pray together. God of compassion and truth, you have heard the prayers we have carried, spoken and unspoken, named and still held quietly within us. As we leave this place, go with us into our conversations, into the words we speak, and the listening we offer. Give us courage to be honest without losing kindness. Give us grace to listen deeply without rushing to respond. Give us wisdom to recognize your voice in the voices of others. Where there is hurt, help us tread gently. Where there is disagreement, help us to remain open. And where there is hope, help us to nurture it. In Jesus' name, amen.
And so may the God who has met us here hold all that we have carried and all that we have shared. May Christ walk beside us in every conversation, in every challenge, and in every step ahead. And may the Spirit give you courage to listen deeply, to love generously, and to respond with hope. So go in peace, held in the heart of God, and sent in the strength of all that is love. Amen.
During the day, it was brought to my attention that Sybil Davies of the Rotherham and Durham Valley Circuit has passed on and should have been on our list. She died back in March, the 9th of March this year. So that's an additional name that we need to note from our reports. And then finally, can I invite Janet? I'm sure Janet. Janet, could you just come for us and bring us an invitation?
Afternoon, Synod. On behalf of the Rotherham and Durham Valley Circuit, I'd like you to welcome to the September Synod, which is the 12th of September, and that will be held at Broome Methodist Church in Rotherham. We're looking forward to welcoming you all then. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, just to say thanks again to our friends here at Greenhill for providing such a good place for us to be today and hosting us so well.
And also, thank you to our Synod Secretary for helping prepare for today, and the district staff team that have done so much work in the background. There's a lot of work that goes on to make our gatherings possible. Catherine, particularly Goody Bags, who lives and breathes the gathering the weeks leading up to it. And to Mark, thank you for leading us so well. Dave, thank you for playing for us and pulling all the tech together. And Alan, who's pushed the buttons. Thank you, Alan. And yes, thank you to Greeno. Sean wants to mention something on the
One
back.
last thing, in the communications report earlier on that was mentioned about the WhatsApp group, it's just started in the last couple of weeks, not going long. On the back of your goodie bag, which has got your name on the front, on the back, there is a little QR code here. If you could, before you end today, scan that, get yourself onto the WhatsApp group. We would be delighted to see more in the WhatsApp group. And just finally, we say that we will be resetting the church with the folks here from Greenhill immediately afterwards. So please take off the table as much as you can to make our job as easy as possible.
Yeah. So, thank you as well. Very grateful to you all for being here and making this such a wonderful day. So travel safely and God bless, and Synod is closed.